Welcome to the Mass Appeal podcast. Our mission is to empower both aspiring and seasoned real estate investors with the knowledge and tools needed for success. Each episode, we engage with leading experts on health, wealth, and investment strategies. Now, let's meet your host, Renee Masse. With over 30 years as an entrepreneur and 10 as a realtor, Renee brings a wealth of experience in real estate investing, specializing in multifamily properties, student rentals, and land optimization strategies. Join him as he speaks with industry experts and shares practical tips to help you navigate the real estate landscape.
All right, welcome. Sounds good. This is quite an opportunity here. We've got not only one, not two, but three guests on the show here today, where we're going to be talking about something much different. And I think there's value here because a lot of the people listening to the show is all about wealth and abundance, but often when they think of wealth and abundance, they think about material possessions. But I'm like, we all believe that wealth and abundance also comes on a different level, on a spiritual level as well. So I'm thrilled to introduce Calvin, Kaylee, and Banks to the show, and we're going to talk about something a bit more elaborate, something a bit more different, and it's going to be about spirituality and consciousness, which is a wealth of abundance there as well. And well, let's just introduce everybody. So Calvin, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Calvin. I am a transformational coach, some would call it a life coach, which kind of leads into some spiritual coaching and that kind of thing. Also, I'm a metaphysical minister. So I studied metaphysical science, so I have that in the background. I also do hypnotherapy for those that come and, if they want to jump into past lives, quit smoking, get rid of the fear of spiders.
Okay.
Those little things, they seem like little things, but they're huge things. But hypnotherapy really helps with those. So I learned how to do hypnotherapy also. I founded this Collective Co Institute, right?
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people out there that need help, and a lot of people that are really good at helping those people in really effective ways, like holistic ways, different from the medical world that we grew up with.
For sure.
Right. So
yeah, Kaylee, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Kaylee, and I also am a metaphysical minister with a master's degree in metaphysical science.
Awesome.
And I do Reiki healing, and I also do emotional therapy with people. So working through like shadow work, it's like going to a psychiatrist, but with emotions, and you don't have to talk about anything. So that's kind of a unique way to handle therapy, because a lot of people, their biggest reservation with therapy is having to talk about their past or their childhood or
their emotions. A lot of men don't like talking about their emotions. Yeah.
Yes. So what I help people do is draw up those emotions and release them without having to actually revisit old things. And then, like I said, Reiki healing. And I also do a lot of just like astrology readings for people too. It just comes up. People are always like, oh, read my chart. So I do it too.
Yes. If there's a need, definitely, by all means,
provide.
People
ask it all the time.
Sure. That's awesome. Thank you, Kaylee. And Banks, please introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Banks. I go by Optimistic Banks. I'm a mystic hip hop artist, also a podcast host where
awesome.
we talk about spirituality, metaphysical stuff, aliens, kind of anything to stretch, maybe like our understanding of things. And I also talk a lot about the mirror principle and about how to use the mirror principle to help you navigate things in life.
Awesome. This is great. And so you're part of a collective group. Can you elaborate on that group and how it got started?
Sure, I can jump on that. So
sure.
I seen a need that needed to be filled, basically. For me, I felt it was really missing in the world. So I struggled with mental, emotional, physical issues for years, right? And I'd go to doctor after doctor after doctor. They would, here, try this pill, try that pill. Oh, let's
Yeah.
increase
Yeah.
this dose. Let's do this. So doctors, therapy, medication weren't really helping me out. So I turned to the holistic and spiritual approaches. That's when I really began to transform myself and my health, and just got better very, very quickly.
Mm.
Um, and then I started, jumping community to community, and even clients that I worked with, they would tell me some things that worked for them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what that led to was kind of like a Cardedex of individuals. Kind of I kept in my back pocket, like, hey, they're really, really good. Psychic medium, hey, they're really, really good at doing this quantum change modality.
Hmm.
They're changing lives, right? And I'm seeing that or hearing about it. So, but they were all doing it kind of separate.
Yeah. So I like what you mentioned, Calvin. True. We live in Canada. It's a great place. There's free healthcare, but there's limitations. Like we can only heal so much through the traditional type of healthcare. So you are part of the of it's called Collective Co. Is that what it's called?
Collective Co. Yeah.
Collective Co. And it helps to people to heal some of the wounds, the past wounds that they may have.
Absolutely. So it's kind of how it's more so of a sanctuary where people can go, like where that spiritual growth and healing
Mhm.
has no bounds, right?
Okay.
So they would kind of seek us out because we're the best at what we do. We're the best of the best. They come and find us if they need help. If they are doing this kind of work, maybe they're coming to learn.
Mhm.
So then that's another level that they would be at, kind of like a student, or the next thing up is kind of the mentor or the teachers, right? So the three of us are kind of mentors or teachers in our own things. Like we're professors at what we do because what we do is working so well out in the community.
Mhm.
So we might have people come and that like just want to learn how we're doing this and
So
how we're
this opens
oh
up a tons of other questions I have. I'm
yeah.
trying to hold back some of the questions I have because Bank, maybe Kylie wants to mention a few things, but so how does one raise their spiritual awareness? Like how do you do that? How do you raise consciousness? That from how does one do that? I'm fascinated by that.
Go for it, Kaylee.
Oh, yeah. Well, so basically, kind of to understand all of that, you kind of have
Mhm.
to understand the backstory with like what really is spirituality and what that's all about.
Good question.
Because
Well,
that's
how
been
would you define
something,
it? How would you define it?
yeah, it's something that's actually been around for a very long time. And, a lot of people think like a lot of new age spirituality is
Hmm.
like its own religion, like it's taking over belief systems. And it's not really void of past beliefs. It's more complementary and in addition to other beliefs.
Okay.
There's not really anybody telling you like, no, you can't believe that in spirituality. It's more just letting you find what resonates with yourself.
Mhm.
So, one of those weird things too, I think what we need to understand about energy
Yes,
is that it's influenced by things that are greater than us, like this higher source energy.
for sure.
And
There's
like
a reason why I encountered Calvin at the transformative speaking meeting or speakers. It was great because I was just walking around and all of a sudden we connected and that was about it. I really don't believe there's any coincidences in that. So I find energy from my own personal experience, energy kind of similar conscious of energy meets up with similar conscious of energy. I think that's lovely. So
Well,
that,
what I think is interesting too is that
yes, please.
when people talk about the word coincidence,
Yes.
we have kind of flipped the meaning of it when
Yep.
in reality it actually means to coincide. So when people
Ah,
say like, oh, it's just a
I love
coincidence,
that.
you're literally describing a miracle, right? It's like, oh, it just perfectly synchronized. It was just perfectly synchronized. No big deal. It's like, what do you mean? Like,
So Banks, do you believe in coincidences?
I believe coincidence is the beginning of truth. This your realization,
Okay.
you know what I mean? That everything is perfectly synchronized. That what's amazing about it is that we do have free will, but that within every decision, everything is perfectly synchronized just for you. So that's like the real love of source, God, whatever you want to call it, the universe, that the real love is that we don't have a book that just tells us exactly what to do. We have freedom, free
Yes.
will. That's real love.
And I love freedom of all types, definitely. So telling me exactly what to believe, it's kind of strange. So when it comes to spiritual growth and healing, what's the collective co's unique approach?
Yeah, I'll jump on. So it's a deeply personalized approach to spiritual growth and healing. It's basically the assumption that we're kind of like you said, like spiritual levels in a way. So it seems to me from everybody I've kind of worked through or worked with is they're kind of playing a level.
Mhm.
And unless they get to the end of the level or do what they need to do or heal what they need to heal, they're going to keep repeating it. They
Oh,
end up
yes,
playing
yes.
those patterns and
Yes.
cycles over and over. Um, so what we aim to do is basically teach them that. That's the first step. That's the awareness. Give them the awareness that they need, because that's stuff they don't teach in school, right? So here's your awareness. Then we take that awareness and do something with it. If you really want to clear out the past and heal from that, let's do that. Then what comes next? And what a lot of clients or people that I meet, they
Mhm.
notice that that's cleared out. It just gives so much space and opportunity for the other stuff to come in.
I love that idea, because often
So,
people they cling on to something, but when they let that go, then there's room for other new abundance or new growth.
right. And our approach is kind of centered around the belief that healing's not like a one size fits all process.
Yeah.
That's why there's a lot of different kind of practitioners, healers, coaches, uh, therapists, mystic rappers,
I love it.
metaphysical teachers. So we have to kind of, everybody that comes, they're going to kind of migrate to the person that they need to
So,
get.
so what's the typical individual that does reach out for what's the typical like, problem or pain that they may have? Like, do you have an example or a story of a particular person that that you helped heal in their journey?
Sure. Mine's going to probably be completely different from Banks and Kaylee, but
Of course.
for me, I tend to um, attract those with a lot of anxiety. Maybe they have physical pain, that kind of thing, because that's kind of what I went through. So
That
I
anxiety
noticed
is
that too,
huge, huge. I'm so glad
right?
you mentioned that one because it's few people actually talk about it, but anxiety is rampant. I see it all the time in myself and others. Anxiety, and it gets projected in many different ways.
Yeah,
So
for
how
me,
that me, I've done it many, many times. I aim to uninstall the anxiety. And that kind of blows people's minds because they're like, what do you mean? Like, I have anxiety. It's what I
Mm.
have.
It's a
I
common
can't.
one, very, very common one.
Um, so I'll give you a couple examples. Somebody comes and they're like, hey, Calvin, I hear you can help with anxiety. Perfect. Um, how long have you had anxiety? This long. Well, what are you doing about it? Well, I've been seeing a therapist for 20 years. How's that going? Not bad. I still have
Yeah.
anxiety, right?
Uh-huh.
How
20
often do
years.
you go? Well, like once a week, every 2 weeks, but I still have anxiety. They come in, sometimes it's as little as one session sometimes. Uh, we release it I love working with the unconscious, release it at the unconscious level,
Mm, that's strong.
or at least like turn it down from like a level 100 to like a 4 or 5, and then send them on their way. And they're just, wow, it's
No,
a
I'm
completely,
curious to know, how is that done? I mean, a lot of people do it with pills and other types of drugs, I guess. But how does one do it from a spiritual level as a healer like yourself?
Okay, for me, like I aim for it to try to be as content free as possible. Um, so I kind of tap into it's going to sound a little woo woo or
Yeah, that's
strange,
okay.
but
Yeah, that's
tap
okay.
into the
We're into
unconscious,
that. No worries about that.
right? I also will use a mirror here. So I will use something called applied behavioral kinesiology, fancy way of saying muscle testing. So
Hmm.
the body will actually communicate when the anxiety was installed in your neurology, in your cellular memory. And we will
Yes.
go back to that, to the source, and uncover what we need to learn or who needs to be addressed, that kind of thing, so that
That's
we can release.
fascinating. So you're
Right?
telling me, Calvin, that the stress which is in the brain gets manifested physically in the body.
So it's not just in your
It's
brain, it's throughout
through.
your whole body.
Yes.
It's commonly known as cellular memory.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if it's in the cells themselves or in the space in between. I don't know, but that's where our
Lodged there
unconscious,
physically, like
that's where
manifested
it is.
physically. I
That
really believe
stuff's
it.
if it's not dealt with, then it begins to manifest and it starts to affect your emotional, mental, physical health,
Mm,
right? And then you notice. Here's a really good acronym. If you have any kind of pain,
yes.
AIN, pay attention inward now.
Oh, I like that. Pay attention inward now. I love it. I've never heard
Right.
this. This is good.
Yeah, I would like to add on to that a
Yes,
little
please.
bit too, because I work with very similar things. So where he does it a little bit more like with your reactions, I, do the more emotional side of it because suppressed emotions will manifest into physical
Mm. Oh,
symptoms.
definitely,
And
definitely.
so like every little thing, that's why when I do Reiki and emotional therapy too, we can kind of someone like let's say someone has like knee pain and then they find out that it's actually some trauma that they had as a child emotionally that's
Yes.
causing this knee pain, and then there is a difference. There are some people who've had a physical injury that creates that. But the other crazy part is your body's ability to prevent these injuries is also triggered by how the state of your emotions is. So
Mm.
they cold, for example, is a virus that isn't something that, it's going to attack your immune system, but you're going to catch that cold if you are under a lot of stress when you're letting that emotion allow that virus into your body. But when you're not as stressed, you might be exposed to that virus and it's not overtaking you and causing you to be ill because your body is protecting you. It's when your aura is built up. They call that an orbi sometimes. You
This is
are creating a
amazing.
protection around you. So it's preventing you from these physical factors that might be harming your body. So, and there's accidents that happen, but we're also able to control what accidents happen to us in a strange way. So,
Kaylee, are you by
people
any
who are
means
more in
psychic?
tune. What was that?
Because are you by any means psychic? Because I have a knee pain in the left knee, and I got a bit of a cold I've had for maybe 2, 3 weeks now,
Yes,
which
I
is
I
definitely
definitely have
related
some
to stress.
psychic tendencies, but I don't put a lot of my energy into that, but I definitely have been able to read things very
That's
well.
amazing. That is quite amazing. Going back to the anxiety, Calvin, you were mentioning about how did you help the person overcome their anxiety? Like, how did success look like with that individual once you did heal them from anxiety or lowered the pain of anxiety?
Like if I treat it almost like a volume knob on a stereo, like it's just been turned down, and
So what is
that's
so maybe I should say, what is this person doing now differently than after, after having been healed
okay.
from that?
Okay, so I had a neighbor one time. I got a sign on my front yard, it says
Yep.
coaching and hypnotherapy. So, the odd time I'll get somebody banging on the door, but the majority of them they book in advance. But she comes knocking, and that's what her problem was. not her like, not that she was broken or anything like that, but she said, I have anxiety. I can't get in the car. I can't drive my kids to school. I have to get my husband to be in the car with me at all the times. Like, I can't drive. That's like crippling anxiety. So we did some work. She could get in the car like the next day after one session that
that's fast.
She hasn't been on the highway yet.
Okay.
She's a little bit like, it's just, she's just scared.
Yeah, step at a time.
She probably could. So that happened. And obviously we're on the same street. So I was taking my kids to the bus stop one time, and I was walking back after they got on the bus, and she's kind of flagging me down. I'm like, oh crap, like what did I do, right?
She wants her money back. What's going on?
Right. That's where I went first. But she was, Calvin, like that work, can we do it again? And I'm like, well, if it worked, like, we can't do it again. Like, it worked.
That's so cool.
Right? She's like, but I want it to stick. I said, it will stick. Just keep going forward. Focus on what you want. Right. So we did, it doesn't clear up the emotions. So it's good that Kaylee mentioned the emotions, like the stored up weight of the emotions. So we did do some work afterwards, worked specifically on the emotions and reducing the charges of those. Right. But she's been doing good. It's been probably about a year and a half, and
this is great. I love these types of stories, these success stories like that. I've gone through Reiki many years. It's helped me along the way to unleash things as well. It was deep rooted stuff. But for those who may not know Reiki and healing, how do you describe it to them so that they're open to at least trying it out?
Are you ready to supercharge your real estate investments? You're in the right place. Many listeners of the Mass Appeal podcast might not know this, but Rene Masse is a licensed realtor with Rockstar Real Estate and a key player on the Buy-in Kingston team. With decades of experience and a diverse portfolio of satisfied clients, the Buy-in Kingston team is dedicated to helping investors like you succeed. They provide a comprehensive, full-service suite of solutions tailored for investors, designed to maximize your cash flow and enhance your return on investment. Ready to unlock your next cash flow opportunity? Book a discovery call at buyinkingston.com today, and let's start building your real estate empire together.
Yeah, basically, well, I sometimes will carry like selenite with me, and just like, so if I'm literally having a conversation with me, I'll be like, may I like do some on you real quick and like like show you? And so sometimes I do that with people, but like if I was just supposed to tell somebody, like, I can't like just whip it out and do it on everybody all the time.
Yeah.
I would explain kind of that it works with a lot of the unseen things that you have going on with you. And I always ask people, I say to take your arm and kind of like move your hand just above your body, and kind of you could feel the like electric activity going on
energy,
between
yes,
just a few like centimeters above you. And they could, when people do that, sometimes they'll scan their arm and they'll notice like warm and cold spots or like imbalances, and I let them know like that's what we're going to work with. And it is a physical thing. It looks very woo woo when I'm just like floating my hands around people's bodies, just kind of like, it looks really silly.
I do Reiki as well, and I often tell people like, oh, it's just a relaxation technique. And then they relax and we start getting into it, and they're like, why do I feel like icy cold or tingly? Or I'm like, just relax.
But the
relaxation technique,
That's really good, because the way I was introduced to it many years ago, it was the woman came up to me and says, just try it out. So I was busy contractor at the time, and she said me, I laid on her table, and when I got back up after half an hour, the tensions in my above my eyes were gone, and I was just amazed by that. I was like, I didn't even realize that I was so tense in my forehead and hanging on to it. And then eventually when I left, it came back. But the more often I went, the more that tension just dissipated, and I was more aware of it, and it was gone. So it's strange how it works. Very, very strange.
Well, yeah, it's just that your belief in anything, even your belief in like, your ability to not do something, like whatever you believe is going to like really continue to manifest. But sometimes we need an outside symbol or a trigger essentially to
Mhm.
make us go, oh, I didn't even realize that was a possibility.
Yes, yes.
And then you're like rewiring your brain and what you believe is possible.
Oh, tell me more about rewiring the brain. I love that idea because we
Well,
do it on a daily basis.
yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can go about doing it, but really it's as simple as like, brushing your teeth with your other hand and like taking a different path to work,
Yes.
walking a different path. Also doing things like a little bit of like psilocybin has been proven to like, kind of help rewire the brain, some psychedelics and that kind of
What
stuff.
about affirmations? Just
Yeah,
constantly repeating certain
all of
words or
that,
ideas.
all of that is creating like just new possibilities. Your brain is basically like the universe creating new, it's infinite in a way, your mind. So
Mm,
it's creating new possibilities. So the universe will always support growth and new uniqueness.
okay. Would you like to elaborate on your story, Banks? You have a very fascinating story on how you dwelled into this healing process and how you help others heal as well.
Sure. So I've always been a creative, but I definitely like I got into hip hop when I was like 13 and was in a pretty successful hip hop group until I was about 25.
Hmm.
And I quit doing that and got into the corporate world and became a sales manager,
Hmm.
and did that for almost 20 years. And then at the age of 33, after COVID happened, I lost my job. I started doing drugs. I was at a very low point in my life.
Okay.
wasn't doing music anymore. Just like really a sad version of myself. And a friend of mine offered me 5-MeO DMT, which is
What's that?
it's
Can
the
you
most
elaborate?
powerful psychedelic known to man,
Oh, okay.
which I didn't know it at the time, but it's
Okay.
a venom of a toad,
Oof.
and you smoke it. And I had a near death experience on it,
Oh,
and that kind of cracked me wide open. And since then I would have like dreams that would come true. I would tap into like frequencies of like airplanes and like other people's televisions and other houses, weird things like that.
really?
And then yeah, and then would have like past life dreams that were very real. And then uh found meditation because I felt like I was losing my mind.
Yes.
And my brother is a kung fu master, and he was the one who told me you need to take up meditation. And then the first meditation experience I ever had was like very mind blowing, where I traveled through wormholes and saw my third eye, met with
Hmm.
spirits. And my brother, who was meditating next to me, had a shared experience where he and I saw exactly the same thing.
Wow.
So that moment, I was like, okay, I have like an outside validation. So I've got to like really start going inward and working on myself and getting myself
Hmm.
clean. And had just an insatiable drive for knowledge, require like around anything that was mystical,
Yep.
spiritual, and just started expressing myself through my music and started a podcast.
Transformative. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm definitely like clairvoyant. I do dream interpretations, all that kind of stuff. I have visions a lot. But I like to also demystify this stuff and make it kind of more logical for people to understand.
Yeah, yeah. I like that the notion that you mentioned meditation, and that seems to be more and more mainstream. So do you suggest to people to meditate, or
Absolutely. You should be meditating for 20 minutes a day. Unless you don't have time, then you should meditate for an hour a day.
I love that.
I also recommend sleep meditations too. Like there's like subliminal meditations you can do while you're sleeping. Like if you really
Mm,
don't have time. I do that every night. I've been doing it for like 6 or 7 years now.
cool. And so these are apps or recordings.
You can find them anywhere. I use YouTube.
You too.
Just look up whatever kind of
Yeah,
meditation I want to do and leave it on all night.
yeah. I think that's amazing. Is
If
there
you
is
really don't have
yeah,
time to meditate, like early morning meditation, just like 5 minutes before you actually get out of bed, just have like
yeah.
gratefulness thoughts, kind of, and like, and then right as you're going to sleep, just a few minutes before, kind of just mindfulness and
Yeah,
think.
it's a way of cleansing. It's a way of cleansing from one world to the other. I definitely enjoy the morning meditation because that way it's just like a slow, gradual way of waking up, and you're more aware. There's like a more consciousness, and you
And
just
it creates a separation between you and your consciousness. So when things happen in reality, you don't have these knee-jerk reactions to things. There's more of a calmness, and you're like, oh, I can wait to respond to this the proper way. And these kind of
thanks. You just said these are my key words: reactivity. Being reactive or responding, which I find very challenging. A lot of people react to everything, while if they just took their time to just observe it and then respond to a situation, seems like the world would be a better place.
It's amazing how many times all you actually have to do is observe it. You don't even need to respond. And it's amazing how many times the problem disappears just by
Yeah. I love it. That's definitely a higher level. That's great. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to elaborate or on the sources and things that I may not have asked you?
I think I want to talk about the ascension a little bit,
So,
like what that really is, like in some depth.
can you repeat that
because
again?
the ascension,
The
like a
ascension.
lot of
So what's the
people have
ascension?
people have been talking about that more and more. And I think because it's like, there's a lot of different people like saying different things about it, but basically what the overall consensus is that there's an energetic shift that we're going through as a society, as humanity. And to kind of explain that a little bit, I like to kind of look at what's going on astrologically. So astrologically, we're moving into a new age, and an age happens about every 2,000 years and actually
Yep.
moves backwards through the zodiac. So we have been in the age of Pisces for the last 2,000 years. And that's usually associated with the fish and the religion of Christianity and Jesus. And before that, we had the ram, which is Aries and Moses and the ram's horn.
So the area of Pisces. I mean, I'm Pisces, but I'm not the what's that? What is that generation of? Like, how you describe that?
It's not a generation. This is
Not a
like
generation.
thousands of years.
Okay, so the era. How would you describe that era? And then now we're shifting to a new era.
Yeah, so basically, the last age has been all about, we're taught about having a soul, and we find a lot of transcendentalism and enlightenment and things that are very Pisces energies.
Okay.
But what's happening now is this shift into the age of Aquarius, and
What does that look like?
Aquarius is a really wild time. So, we now currently are in Aquarius, or just starting off. And this is, Aquarius is the water bearer, but a lot of people don't realize it's not water that it's representing. Like the ancient Greeks did not have a way to explain UFOs and aliens.
Okay.
And so what's really that symbol of like somebody pouring water is somebody's pouring higher knowledge down onto the earth. And so what it is the time to connect to that higher, like, beings or higher power, higher source. And it also is the time for science. Like everything is very scientific. Technology is going to advance like crazy. And that's something I think that people are very afraid of, when really it's just the opposite. I think a lot of people are seeing that AI is evolving and not realizing that part of this is our evolution.
Yes.
Because something really crazy to think about. Can you actually remember being a single cell? Like you can't fathom what that's like, right? But at one point, that's where consciousness was focused. And then that cell realized there's other cells around it. And then they formed into an organ and brought the awareness into the organ. And that brought the awareness into the being. And now we're in the being. But now we're realizing, hey, there's other beings around us. We're sharing this space with other beings. What if we are all part of one planet, one Earth? And the planet is going to gain this consciousness as a whole planet. And we are those organs of that planet, making it run, helping it operate, working with our higher selves.
I love it.
So that's kind of more like the spiritual way of explaining it. And that's why you see a lot of people who are getting more in touch with like pagan practices or even witchcraft, or like things that bring you more in touch with the earth. Like you see, if you go on TikTok, you see all sorts of different people doing like tarot readings, or they're like making potions, or they're putting crystals on everything. That's trying to connect us more with the earth. And what is happening now is this energy is shifting. So people can get a sense of being left behind if they don't evolve with the times. And again, that includes technology and AI. While it can take people's jobs, like that has happened to me. I've lost a job because AI took over. Yeah, it happens. And
Yeah,
it's
already.
something you
That's
have to
amazing.
learn to accept and work around,
Yes.
you know? And if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have gotten into like this healing and energy work that I'm currently doing. And so it's pushing us to have different lifestyles. And we for so long have been very economy driven, very
Mm,
like having to have a reputation and
yes.
status and all these things, where Aquarius likes to break that down. The 11th house, which is Aquarius, represents friendships and groups of people and things that are just kind of like uh learning and knowledge. Like we're not going to care so much about the reputation and status or even sometimes money. You know, I think we're going to enter an era where it becomes more about what can you do for me and what can I do
Yes.
back? Like almost bartering.
Hmm.
You know, I think money's still going to be around,
So let me
but
just understand, if I understand that the age of the Aquarius is more open, where there's a higher level of consciousness, there's more scientific, more AI, and
knowledge driven.
no
We're
more knowledge
craving
driven.
knowledge.
Okay.
Yes. So
Yeah.
we want to know more. We want to learn more, especially about like things that are about space, about
Yes.
metaphysical topics, and yeah, like advancing technology. And even now, like this. So, for example, to give you what's going on with Aquarius energy, Pluto, for example, is about to head back into Aquarius. It was in a retrograde for a little bit,
Mhm.
but that Capricorn and Pluto, that's been around for a while. That was the rise of social media. That's where reputation mattered. That's where
Yeah.
your status mattered, how many followers and likes. And now we're going to see what cool things can we do with technology. And it's not going to matter as much
Mhm.
about your status on social media. Like, I think it'll
Yeah.
still be a thing, but it's going to be like, hey, oh, this page has this information. This one has this information. I want to learn. So it's going to
Like a
become more
collective learning and a collective level of awareness. I think that's amazing because I mean, just even 20 years ago, there was no connection as much as we do now with social media. It's unbelievable the knowledge that is transmitted through all the social media like TikTok and even YouTube. There's so much you can learn from it. So it's amazing on that. So I definitely see a new world, and especially with AI. It's AI. I find it very similar to when I picked up my phone and I had email for the first time. Do you remember that? It just blew my mind. It was like I don't have to go to the office anymore. It just completely changed the way I work. And now with AI, it's doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I think the big fear for people is, you know, they see movies where AI takes over the world. But what we're doing is programming artificial intelligence to mimic our intelligence. So the chances of that happening are just as likely as
Yeah.
humans doing the exact same thing. And will some of them want
I
to rebel
I
and
know
like
when it's going to
fight?
mimic us when AI starts ghosting me.
Yeah. But yes, there are going to probably be some like AI systems that might get that like rebellious vibe that people do, but
Yeah.
there's going to be just as many who actually develop that like in a sense like an artificial empathy or like having
I think a lot of people are it's just the fear of change, fear of the
Mhm.
unknown. It's very
It
common. So
is because like that's what happened with all the different tech like the industrial revolution
Mhm.
back when we stopped like doing things by hand and like everything was
Yes.
made in like industrial lines and
Change is
like
difficult for some people. It
yeah,
definitely
it
is. And
freaks
it
people
brings a lot of
out.
fear for sure.
But when we look back, that was awesome. It was progressive and like we wouldn't want it any other way. So that's what's happening with the AI. And yeah, we do have to be careful with it, you know. I think it's
Which-
important for us not to lose skills
Yes.
because it's so easy to I nanny some kids that are always on their iPads. I try to get them
Mm.
off all the time, but when they try to type, they don't type, they talk. They
Oh,
you
that's what
know,
I'm thinking about.
and you know that there's things where if we lose certain abilities like that, there's going to be some we don't need and
Yeah.
some that could be dangerous if anything were to happen to our advanced technology.
Yeah.
And there's actually some theories that ancient Egypt had a lot of technology and it all was lost. Like there's theories that they had electricity and lighting and different, like even like the ability to create batteries. And somehow they lost their technology and everyone had to start over from
It
scratch.
is
So
interesting because we have this notion that as we progress, as we advance, we're advancing as a culture as well, up, up, up. But it's not always the case. There's certain things that are lost, and then for example, the Romans knew how to use cement, very good cement, and then we lost that technology for many, many years, and then we gathered it back up in Middle Ages or so, but it wasn't the same type of, it took many years to figure out how they did it to that level of concrete. So I definitely agree.
But a good example is like when I was a kid, we lost power, like just light some candles, get some flashlights, not a big deal.
Yeah, no
But
big deal.
today, if you lose power, people can't get work
We
done.
were offline. We were offline for like 2 minutes. We're like, whoa, what's going on? We were
Yeah.
freaking out.
I
But
actually
yeah,
I have an interesting
One-
theory kind of about that too, just that like the more we advance with our technology, we actually become less nuts and bolts, right? So it's like the more
Dependent
we
on it.
advance, it's actually making things smaller and less complex in a way.
Okay.
And so I think that we will advance to a certain point where our technology is very mystical, energetic in a way where it's less nuts and bolts and more with the mind and the body and that kind of stuff. And then at that point, if there is some type of catastrophe, there would be no evidence of all of our technology because it's not nuts and bolts technology.
Interesting. So what kind of, I like to ask people, what kind of books would you recommend to others or to your clients in order to raise an awareness in the next era that we're stepping into?
Well, I've actually published a book, actually,
neat.
right here. This is called Star Clock. So it's for anyone who wants to learn more about astrology and how it kind of impacts like the world as a whole.
Awesome.
You can learn about your personality and compatibility and stuff
Yeah,
too. But I think
love
like
that.
a lot of people don't take astrology as serious. They just think like, oh, are we compatible? Like, what's your sign? Like, it's not like that. Like, this is so much more in depth, and it tells you like how to kind of gauge what's going on in the world, and it lets you kind of learn how to do it. So that's you
Kaylee,
can find this on
send us the
Amazon.
link. Send us the link, and then
Yeah,
we'll put it in.
I sure will.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Calvin, how about you?
I love the David Hawking stuff and levels of consciousness. That's going to teach you the awareness. Like here's where you are now. Maybe you're kind of in a tribe-like autopilot kind of level, and there's higher levels than that, right? And the higher level you go up, the higher your frequency, the more of that you're going to attract, right? So that gets into
Cool.
The universal laws, like the laws of attraction and that kind of thing. Any books on universal laws? There's many universal laws. Those are really, really good. But yeah, just learning how we actually function. Any books about that will.
Cool. Sounds good.
will
Okay.
help.
Banks, do you have a recommendation for a book?
Yeah, if you want to go, if a nice ease into Think and Grow Rich, that's from my sales manager days.
That's a very good one. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they dive into meditation and things like that into that book, and that book was written a long time ago, and it was very much made for the Westerner businessman, if you will, to kind of understand, really.
Would you consider that a spiritual book?
I didn't think it was when I wasn't spiritual. I didn't even realize that I was reading a book that was kind of triggering me in a way to like go deeper. I didn't realize it at the time. Also, the book The Secret is like a spiritual book, but also is read by like corporate companies to help them with sales. So like there's kind of those kind of things are good. But then if we want to go more into the woo-woo, I love Becoming Supernatural, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh yeah.
I was going to add that on. Yeah.
That's
very good for helping bridge the gap between science and mystical.
He's also very, very scientific.
Yes. And anything Alan Watts, Ram Dass, I love all.
Watts. He's a brilliant guy. Oh, awesome. So thanks for taking the time. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share that I may not have asked? Because I know there was a lot of this is a wide subject here, and the
only thing I would like to add is that I'm dropping my new album October 31st, Optimistic Banks, streaming everywhere. You can listen to my last album, The Magician, streaming everywhere. Optimistic with the Y, Optimistic Banks.
Send us a link and we'll put it in the podcast notes. That's
all
awesome.
positive deep hip hop.
Awesome. That's cool. Calvin, would you like to add anything else? Yeah.
So like we kind of talked about what we do kind of individually, but we're doing this work together. Something's brought us together. And that I think is important to mention. I'm not going to go into what brought us together because I will just say the universe or the source or whatever you want to believe that's brought us together, and we're here, to create a supportive community for people that maybe are going through something like Banks went through, where he's like, what's going on? Like, why am I going through wormholes and all this stuff? Or maybe somebody's seeing ghosts. Maybe, like, could be anything. Somebody's going through something and they need somewhere they can go where they can get the right information. Right. So that's the kind of community we're creating.
Cool.
And also that we're empowering those people. Hey, like, you're not crazy. You're gifted.
I love that.
Let's empower you or develop those gifts so that we can get you on your way, and you can start, maybe it's healing other people, that kind of thing, which is going to just take the load off of us. So it's a collective effort.
I think that's, it's very good intentions, and I like when people are here to help others. I think that's what we're really meant to do, is to help each other out, heal, and just grow ultimately. Kaylee, would you like to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think that I think a lot of what we're doing is like he was explaining earlier, we have like different levels, because I think people are at different levels in their spiritual journey. So like most people kind of just want to know what it's about, like checking it out, like listening into things, maybe
Dip their toe
following.
in there just to figure things out, see if
Yeah, but then there's
them.
people who like already know what they're doing, but just want a community around them. They kind of like, maybe someone's doing tarot readings, the other person, is doing Reiki healing and whatever.
Some
And
support.
they just want a community. And then a step above that is people who want to teach. And and some people want to get to that point, but they don't really know how, or they're not ready yet. So that's what we do. We kind of create this all-encompassing community for all of the above. So you could be just a little curious. You could literally be someone who has a service to offer or provide, or you could be someone who is ready to teach.
How does one discover the community? Is there a link that, how does one reach out to Calvin?
So we do have a website. We are pretty active on social media. Okay. So if they could go to our website, they could reach out to any of us on either our individual social media accounts or our collective account. There's all sorts of ways to reach us, and we are very, responsive.
Is there a website or a Facebook group?
Yes. Okay. There's a website.
What's the website called?
Calvin's
Collective Co Institute.
There you go.
Collective Co.
CollectiveCoInstitute.com.
Awesome. Great.
It's because we see it more of almost like a school or academy.
Yeah.
And I think I'll go back to the, Marvel and the X-Men, right? Where Professor X, he made this school for the gifted, somewhere they could go because they didn't know what to do and where to go. And they had these, I'm not going to say I think we're all super powerful on here.
We all have gifts. Definitely. We all have gifts.
You have these gifts, but you don't know how to develop them. And what you've been taught is just go on autopilot and work the 9 to 5 and just get paid and be quiet. Don't worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
But for some people, it's like a telephone ringing and it won't stop ringing, and it will ring and ring and ring. And you could smash that phone into a million pieces and it will still be ringing. And then you're like, what do I do? That's where they come to Collective Co Institute, and they can send us a message. Find somebody on there that
I hope that people listen to this and reach out, and if it helps out 1 or 20 people, doesn't matter. It's the message is there. Your intents are good, and I love what you're doing. Keep it up, Calvin. You're doing. I was a pleasure meeting you at that transformative speaking engagement.
So, life-changing, right?
Yes, it is very life-changing. Exactly. Thank you very much, Calvin, Banks, and Kaylee, to take the time to speak with us today. And please have those connections in the links, and we'll throw it out there, and I'm sure it'll help other people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Mass Appeal podcast. Hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Your feedback will help us reach more inspiring investors. And remember, Every step you take towards any goals brings you closer to better health, greater wealth, and a more fulfilled life. So I encourage you to take action and apply the insights you've gained today. Until next time, I'm Renee Masse, encouraging you to stay curious, keep grinding, and invest wisely. See you in the next episode.